we're nearing a climactic end to this, and the system may not make it that far because of this rush to just get rid of the money, and then it becomes irrelevant. Because if you're still measuring it in currency, the dollar, maybe it should be $100,000, dollars.
We're joined now by Ron Paul, host of the Liberty Report, former congressman and three-time presidential nominee. We're going to get his outlook on the future of the world order. Is NATO going to be disbanded? What is the future of the American economy? And what's next for gold after $5,000? These questions and more will be answered. This episode is brought to you by Kalshi. It's a fully regulated platform that lets you trade on real-world events, from economic data to political outcomes. Sign up and use my code LIN, L-I-N, in the description, link down below, or scan the QR code here. New users will get $10 when you deposit $100. Traders can put money down on their favorite teams, events, elections, and more in all 50 states, including California and Texas, and over 140 countries. More on that later. Dr. Paul, welcome back to the show. An honor to host you as always.
David, nice to be with you again.
We're talking about the future of the economy, the future of America, and the future of global politics, starting with the state of the economy today. So $38 trillion of debt is reached. You've told me before that a depression cannot be avoided, only shortened. You referenced the 1920s as a model where debt liquidation occurred naturally through 1 year of sharp GDP decline. Is that the path that the economy is headed towards?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but I think we live in special times because the deficit has been talked about, and the debt has been talked about in my lifetime a lot of times. When you think about Barry Goldwater bringing this subject up in, I guess, the 50s or so, and they always seem to be dire, but they always seem to pull out of it, and we'd have our ups and downs. And when you look back, well, it wasn't too big a deal. It wasn't the Great Depression, but we've had some great problems. And I think this was different in the sense that we have consumed so much of our wealth. We have consumed the value of the dollar by, abusing it. We have consumed credibility on a foreign stage because I think that people are getting leery of our pushing around with our foreign policy. And of course, the dollar is in trouble, and there's people competing with that. So I see this as much more serious, and that maybe the big bankruptcy is coming and it'll be acknowledged, because a lot of people in the financial markets, because even though we've been concerned, even we went through the 70s, with the gold window being closed and gold going from $35 an ounce when we couldn't even own it up to $800. So that was all serious. But there's something eerie about the way things are right now. When you see gold going up over $100 in a day, sometime in a couple hours, that it is different. And and I'm not sure there's one person that knows every single reason. Sometimes you can read articles that are very, very long explaining all the details, but I just think it's excesses from the government that cause a lot of problems.
What about inequality, income inequality that a lot of Americans are concerned about? What is the cause of that? Can we fix that?
Yeah, and I think that's a big deal, but the inequality is a natural consequence of the debasement of a currency, because the very wealthy can protect themselves. They usually get protection from the politicians. And I think that that is a natural, because the people who get the money first have a more valuable currency than those who get it last, which are the poor and the middle class. So even though the 50% low percentage of people, they don't pay income tax, but they pay a much more sinister tax, and that's the inflation tax, because we don't, just like we didn't honor our commitments in 1971 and declared a bankruptcy of our currency. Now, we right now we do the same thing. We don't admit it because it would cause a total disaster. Let's say they take advice from we who believe the budget ought to be balanced and this sort of thing. But if you cut the spending and did that, all of a sudden tomorrow, the payment would be just horrendous. But what we leave it alone and believing that we are going to work our way out of it, it could be worse than that. So we're in a real mess. And I got started in thinking about economics and politics, especially studying Austrian economics in the 60s, but also the big event of 1971 with the closing of the gold window. And I think we're nearing a climactic end to this. And it's very serious because ultimately what brings a empire down like this is the discrepancy on wealth distribution. And that makes people very, very angry. And we see that all the time. A lot of time there's arguments and disruptions, but they'll talk about the difference in policy. Take the Fed, for instance. There might be an argument on who should do it. I want to run to the Fed, and I want to sit there. The truth is nobody out there doing that, but they have the vaguest notion of what the interest rates ought to be because it's an entirely different system.
Just go back to what you said earlier about the debasement of the monetary fiat system. Ray Dalio, former chief of Bridgewater, said at the Davos WEF forum last week, he told CNBC, another media outlet, that the world fiat monetary system is dying, which is one of the reasons why we saw metals, gold in particular, rise to $5,000. Is the fiat monetary system at its end, Dr. Paul? And if so, are we going to see a return to the gold standard or some sort of currency peg?
Yes, it is dying, and I think the evidence is there. And what isn't known is how fast and when and what the motivations are, what billions of people do, and how they react, and what the governments do, and how many wars are going on. So, but the dollar is dying, and all you have to do, the charts that are the most up to date on this, is if you watch a debt chart, and they're available. The government even puts them out. And the debt is just skyrocketing, and they don't have the money when they want to start a war and spend another $100 billion on it. The question I want to ask them: where's the money? Where do you have the money in the bank? Oh no, but they never. The journalists never ask those questions, so you never hear about it because they don't have it and they don't know how to get it, and they have to live with a lie. They have to steal the money and the purchasing power of the dollar by increasing the money supply, and therefore it's a monetary tax, and it is very, very, very unfair. The poor are being hurt the most.
What is going to happen to the hard metals in this world of monetary debasement? Gold's at $5,000. What is next for the price of the gold?
Well, if it continues like this, and hopefully, I keep saying this is what happens if they don't change their tune. But I said, I can't believe we'll be that stupid. But lately, I'm thinking that they could be. It goes to zero. People, it's the crack up boom that Mises talks about, where everybody does one thing. They're unified in getting out of anything that is, currency related. And they want something of some stuff to hang on to. And when I see the gold price doing what they did, even though I've been talking about this, especially since 1971 on what could happen, it still is shocking to me. I said, why should it shock me? This is what I've been talking about. But still, the end game is we're getting closer. I think Dalio really knows what he's talking about, but how it comes about depends so much on how the government reacts and how much liberty we will give up when we see the chaos. And we're seeing that already, just in our own streets. We're seeing chaos and riots and a lot of killing and all that's going on. So, and it's related, to an unstable system of economics, especially our monetary system.
The fact that gold has gone to $5,000 in such a short period of time, you've previously told me about a year ago that we could see an environment in which gold goes to $20,000.
But it wasn't until after gold got re-legalized in the 70s, in 1975, gold was going originally 20, It went to $200 in 1975. That's a tenfold. They added a zero. And then the next zero was added this past year. That was $2,000. And believe me, there's going to be another zero in our lifetime, and that'll be tenfold. So you say, well, it can't be tenfold. That's impossible. But it did it. It went from 20 to 200 to 2,000. But here we are at $2,000, and it could be now, what I'm saying, it could be 20,000.
What would the world look like if gold goes to $20,000, Dr. Paul?
See, I keep thinking that the system may not make it that far because of this rush to just, get rid of the money, and then it becomes irrelevant. Because if you're still measuring it in currency, the dollar, maybe it should be $100,000, It just goes on and on. So no, it's going to be terrible. I'm surprised that there's not more obvious connection for the people. A lot of people are sick and tired of they can't afford anything anymore. But they don't talk about, well, you don't, both sides, the Republicans, they never talk about who's at fault. Why is this happening? Is there a relationship between what government spends and what the Fed does? They essentially hardly ever talk about that.
I want to close off our discussion on the fate of the world order. This is from Kalshi. It's a prediction market based in the U.S., one of the largest in the U.S. And the prediction is, will the U.S. take control of any part of Greenland? And traders can predict the outcome, and they're placing odds, and the odds are reflected in these numbers here. Before April 2026, traders are placing a 9% chance that the U.S. takes any part of Greenland. By 2027, 26% chance. 47, nearly a 50% chance that the U.S. takes Greenland by 2029, according to traders. What do you make of these odds? And more broadly, my question is, what is the future of the world order? What does the U.S. want?
Well, I think the numbers are interesting, and you look at them, and they may come close to where it is, but I don't think we know trends, but we don't know details what's going to happen in such and such year. So it's the total principle of how people understand money. But these final conclusions are unknowable. But we do know that if they continue this way, something bad is going to happen. It's not going to get better on its own. And to me, yes, it'll be trouble. A lot of people are going to have trouble, and a lot of people will be protected. But I think the worst thing is that in the efforts to try to keep this thing going, that our liberties are challenged. And when you think about it now, a lot of more people in a healthy way are talking about our First Amendment. When it comes to our foreign policy, just think of, if you talk about Middle Eastern policy, you could be in trouble if you're a college professor or a student. So this is the great danger. And if you lose your ability to express oneself and explain and let the people who do have a pretty good feel for this, it's going to be that much more difficult. I keep trying to talk to myself and say, the internet has helped me personally to get my message out and reach more people. But it's also a place where the opposition can pour out the false information and compete and explain why you're not safe and we have to fight this war or prepare to bomb Iran and just take over Venezuela. Some reason we might take over Greenland. The whole thing is crazy. And I think it's going to reflect that in the economy. I can't see the economy perking up very much before you see conditions get much worse.
Well, what do you make of the Donroe Doctrine, Donald Trump's version of the Monroe Doctrine, which basically states that the entire Western Hemisphere must be under U.S. control?
Well, I don't know whether that's a totally accurate description of the Monroe Doctrine. I think maybe the Monroe Doctrine isn't, it was written as a doctrine and a guideline, but I don't. I think the goal of the current administration is, if let's say, for instance, whether it's the Monroe Doctrine or NATO. let's say they're successful in undermining the significance of NATO. But I think there's a strategy with the neocons running our government now that they will have put in place, something similar to maybe different, but also the whole idea that you can put down 15 or 20 or 30 countries together and have a collective decision made. But all this thing, I don't like. I was very much aware of and studied, Robert Taft not even wanting to be in NATO, these organizations, because they're bad. So the collective ideas and efforts, I see as not offering us a whole lot.
Do you think NATO will be disbanded?
I think it may quit being effective enough where it might as well be disbanded, because if our dollar quits working, we send less money to them, something's going to happen. But I think it's going to be the destruction, of the dollar that will then translate into the ineffectiveness of NATO, which I think might be one of the ways. The natural things happen, that if you run out of money, you have to change your mind. That's how bad wars are. They get started for dumb reasons, kill a lot of people, spend all the money, but they end when people get exhausted from the war, or the currencies let up and everybody's broke. So they quit fighting for a while until they decide for some other reason to go to another war.
Final question before I let you go, Dr. Paul. You've spent about 50 years both in government and then in your private life, spreading the message of liberty. Are you more or less hopeful now than you were in spreading this message 50 years ago?
I'm both, because I was encouraged by running for the presidency and talking to a lot of young people, and they were very open to these issues. So philosophically, I think the issues and the understanding of Austrian economics is growing, and it's very important. And I think the young people are open to this. But at the same time, I think the inevitable consequence of the policies of the last 100 years, since the progressive era started, and that we see the corruption in the monetary system, the educational system, the whole works, that is very negative. And I believe that you have to, liquidate debt and malinvestment to get a really good start again. But beneath it all, I do believe that, for instance, before I went into Congress and talked about this, and before the internet was available, I would go to a college and think, 15 people showed up. They're interested in this philosophy. But now there's a lot more people sincerely interested. But to make this shift and this transition is very, very hectic and very, very dangerous, because the violence may get out of hand.
Okay, let's hope the violence doesn't get out of hand. Dr. Paul, thank you very much. We're glad to see that you're in good health. Where can we follow your work?
Well, I have the Ron Paul Liberty Report. We go live stream every day at 11 o'clock Central Time, and we're on several of the sites that will let us live stream. And right now, we're getting some good numbers on X and a few others. I'm not one of these computer people and understand it all, but I do know that if you have a bigger audience, you get more people interested in what you're talking about. And that's why I'm happy to be on your program, because I know you have a lot of people that want to think about this and decide that the issue of freedom versus tyranny. And I'm sure glad you're on our side.
Sure glad that you're able to disseminate your message and educate us, Dr. Paul. Thank you once again for your continued outreach to the general public. And please do make sure to follow Dr. Paul and the Liberty Report. Links down below. Thank you, Thank you again, Dr. Paul. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, David.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the Liberty Report and Dr. Paul in the links down below. And don't forget to use my code LIN, L-I-N, when you sign up to Cowshy, link down below, or scan the QR code here. And don't forget that new users will get $10 when you deposit $100.